I wasn't invited to my parents' anniversary cruise, even though I paid for it. Dad texted, "We thought it'd be better off without you." I replied, "Sure thing." The next morning, Mom called 22 times. The cruise line refused boarding without the cardholder present. 3 hours later, the madness began. I started getting the feeling something was off about a week before the trip. My mom had been vague in the family group chat. My older sister kept ignoring my questions about packing. Even my youngest sister, who usually tells me everything, had suddenly gone quiet. Then 2 nights before the flight, I found out. I was confirming last-minute details with my dad, just double-checking the airport pickup times, and he casually mentioned that they'd arranged a shuttle to the hotel. I asked what shuttle. He replied like it was nothing. "Oh, we thought it'd be better off without you." That was it. No joke. No follow-up. Just those words. It wasn't just the message. It was the fact that he didn't even try to soften it. Like I was the extra baggage in my own vacation. A vacation I'd planned down to the last detail and paid for entirely on my own dime. 5 cruise tickets. 2 upgraded cabins. Excursions in each port. Flights. Hotels. Difference. Spa packages. The whole thing had cost me just over $12,000. I didn't ask for a penny from any of them. And now they'd decided to cut me out. I didn't reply for almost an hour. Just sat there trying to figure out if this was some sick joke or if I had truly become that disposable to my own family. Then I texted back 2 words. "Sure thing." I didn't explain. Didn't fight. I just let it sit. And the second I sent it, something in me froze over. The next morning, my phone lit up at 6:13 a.m. My mom had called 22 times before I even got out of bed. When I finally glanced at my screen, I had missed calls from my sisters, one from my dad, and a few frantic texts. The cruise line had refused to let them board. They didn't just want the credit card, they needed the card holder. In person. I made myself coffee and ignored the calls. My husband watched me quietly and asked if something happened. I told him they tried to cut me out and now couldn't board without me. He said that's what they get. Want eggs or toast? I waited until the 23rd call before answering. Put it on speaker. Mom was losing it. Something about how I was being petty, how they were standing at the port with their bags and couldn't get through security. She kept shouting that I needed to get on the next flight to Miami or at least call the cruise company and authorize them. I told her no. Not angrily. Just calmly. Oh. I said they could have thought of that before deciding I wasn't worth having around. Then I hung up. 3 hours later, they were pounding on my door. It was almost noon by then. I'd already gone out for breakfast with my husband, walked the dog, and had no intention of answering. But they wouldn't stop. I finally opened the door and there they were, both of them sunburned from stress, standing like I owed them something. That was the beginning of the madness. And I knew right then, this wasn't going to end with a simple apology. When they started banging on the door, I knew they weren't coming to apologize. I stood at the top of the stairs for a few seconds, watching the shadows of my parents through the glass. My husband asked if I wanted him to answer it, but I shook my head. I wanted to see their faces myself. I wanted to hear whatever excuse they thought was going to work. I opened the door without a word. My mom barreled in like she owned the place. My dad followed, quieter, but still acting like this was just a minor misunderstanding. Neither of them waited for an invitation. They just walked in like it was still their house, like I was still their daughter in high school, grounded for talking back. She went off the second she hit the living room. Accused me of being selfish. Said I humiliated them. Claimed the cruise staff had treated them like criminals because of me. That people were watching when they were denied boarding. That I'd planned this out of spite. She was convinced I'd orchestrated the whole thing just to ruin their trip. I didn't interrupt. I let her spiral. I watched her face go red as she ranted about everything from the lost vacation to how ungrateful I'd always been. My dad tried to interject here and there, throwing in little lines like "let's not yell and we just need to talk this out." They still didn't get it. They actually thought I owed them a fix. That I'd snap out of it and offer a refund or maybe a reschedule. They thought I'd feel guilty enough to pick up the pieces for them like I always had. I told them the cruise was non-refundable. My mom lost it. She said I'd wasted their time, their energy, their trust. She said I'd betrayed the family. Then she tried to turn it on me, saying if I didn't come with them, it was proof I didn't really want to be part of the family anymore. I didn't say much. Just sat down on the armrest of the couch and watched it all play out. My husband came downstairs then. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed. He didn't say anything until my mom dragged his name into it. She said he'd poison me against them. Said ever since I married him I'd become cold, distant, and, her words, calculating. That was when he snapped. He told them to leave. Told them they were insane if they thought they could disrespect me in my own home and still get what they wanted. Said if they didn't get out in 30 seconds he'd help them find the door. My dad tried to calm things down, but it was already over. My mom was screaming by then. My husband stood there with his arms folded while she hurled one last insult at him, then stormed out. My dad followed, quieter than usual. We didn't talk much after they left. My husband just sat next to me and asked if I was okay. I told him I was fine. But I wasn't. Not really. The silence that followed was louder than the screaming. No messages. No apologies. No one checked in for 3 days. Then, on the 4th night, I got a text from my dad. They wanted to talk. They were inviting me to dinner. Just me. Not my husband. I didn't answer right away. It took me a few hours to even decide if I wanted to go. Part of me didn't. Part of me didn't want to set foot in that house ever again. But the other part, the stupid hopeful part, wanted to believe maybe they were finally ready to talk like actual adults. I told my husband I'd go, but asked him to wait outside, just in case. I arrived a few minutes early. The porch light was on even though the sun hadn't set yet, like they were trying too hard to seem welcoming. My husband stayed parked across the street watching. I told him I wouldn't be long. I told him it was probably just a talk. But I think we both knew it wasn't going to be that simple. The moment I stepped inside, I felt it. Everything was too perfect. The table was already set with Mom's nicer dishes. Napkins folded, salad already plated, candles lit. A bottle of wine I'd once brought over for Thanksgiving was sitting uncorked like it had been waiting just for tonight. And everyone was already seated. My mom greeted me like we hadn't screamed at each other 4 days ago. My dad smiled like a diplomat. My older sister was suddenly playing host, asking if I wanted water, offering me bread like it was a dinner party. And my youngest sister, 16 and still painfully transparent, sat quietly, clearly uncomfortable, barely looking up from her plate. They all acted like nothing had happened. I sat down without saying much. They filled the silence with small talk. My mom asked about work. My dad asked if my husband was doing well. They asked about the dog. I gave short answers. Every question felt like it had been pre-approved. The food was fine. The atmosphere wasn't. Then halfway through the second course, chicken piccata and overcooked asparagus, my dad leaned back and started his pitch. He said it was a shame the cruise didn't work out. Said the family still deserved to unwind after all the drama. He mentioned a few ideas they'd been considering. My mom took that cue and slid something across the table toward me. A printed brochure. Glossy. Folded once. It was for a resort in Arizona. Not just any resort. One of those all-inclusive desert spa places with infinity pools and meditation domes and daily massages. The kind of place you go when you want to pretend your life isn't falling apart. She smiled as I read it. Said it was only 5 nights, a good deal all things considered. Said they'd already picked out the dates. Flights were still affordable if we acted fast. I looked up. Then I asked the only question that mattered. Who's paying? My mom blinked like she hadn't heard me right. My dad chuckled a little and said something about how I handled the logistics so well last time. My older sister jumped in, saying if we split the cost of souvenirs and meals this time, it'd be even easier for me. Easier for me. My mom added that it was only $5,000 this time. A fraction of what the cruise cost. She said it like she was doing me a favor. And that's when I realized it. This wasn't a peace offering. This was a setup. Reset. They weren't trying to fix anything. They were just trying to move past it like it never happened. Repackage the whole betrayal into a new trip, another scheme. One where I paid, they went, and I stayed behind again. I glanced at my youngest sister. She looked up at me once, almost apologetically, then said it under her breath, barely loud enough to hear. They won't stop. My mom snapped her head toward her. Said her name sharply. My dad tried to smooth it over with a laugh, brushing it off like a teenager being dramatic. I said fine. Told them I'd think about it. That I'd send something later. My mom seemed pleased. My dad looked relieved. I didn't finish dinner. I stood up, told them I had somewhere to be, hugged my youngest sister longer than the rest noticed, and left. Back in the car, I didn't say anything at first. My husband looked at me waiting. I just shook my head and stared out the window as he drove. That night I sent them $1,000. Not 5. Just 1. No explanation. No follow-up. Then I texted, "That's enough." The silence after I sent the $1,000 was too perfect. No sarcasm. No passive-aggressive guilt trips. No follow-up demands. Just nothing. At first I figured they were stunned, still waiting for the rest of the money to come through. Maybe they thought it was a mistake. Or maybe they were finally getting the message. But at 11:58 the next morning my dad texted, "Can we stop by tomorrow? Just to talk." The wording caught me off guard. No guilt, no pressure, no hints of drama. It read like something from someone who didn't want to start another fight. I stared at it for a long time. I showed my husband. He read it once then again and said, "Your move." I told them they could come by at 1. I kept it short. When they arrived, it was strange. They came walking up like missionaries, calm faces, carefully selected words. My mom wore this pastel blouse she only brings out when she's trying to look like someone else's idea of a good mother. My dad had a gift bag in one hand and that awkward, overly practiced smile he uses when he's about to ask for something. I opened the door. They stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, but they didn't raise their voices this time. My mom even complimented our living room, like she hadn't insulted my husband 4 days ago. My dad set the gift bag down on the coffee table and said it was just a peace offering. I didn't touch it. They sat down on the couch side by side and started their performance. My mom talked about how she'd been reflecting on everything and how the cruise situation had gotten a little messy. She said they understood if I was hurt. My dad kept nodding along with every sentence. I asked them if this was about the money. My mom smiled and shook her head. My dad at the exact same moment said yes. They both paused. My mom's eyes shot toward him, sharp as glass. He tried to cover, saying it wasn't just about that, but come on, it was. We all knew it. Then, out of nowhere, my mom stood up and said she left something in the car. Didn't explain what. Just walked out the front door while my dad stayed seated, talking about how families go through seasons, and how we were just in a rough one. I nodded slowly, listening, but something in my gut twisted. She'd been gone 5 minutes. Then 10. Then we heard the car start. I stood up, went to the window. She was already backing out of our driveway. I looked at my dad. He blinked like he didn't realize she was really leaving. Said she just needed some air. That it was a lot for her to process. I didn't believe a word of it. I told him to go. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just pointed to the door. He grabbed the gift bag like he'd forgotten it was even there, said we're just trying to fix this, and left. I stood there for a few seconds trying to decide whether to look inside the bag or throw it straight into the trash. Curiosity won. I opened it. Inside was a printed resort confirmation. 5 nights. The same Arizona spa they pitched at dinner. Paid in full. And under my name. My full name. My address. My card. I ran to my laptop, logged into my bank account, and stared at the transaction. $5,387. Booked online. Paid the day before they showed up. They didn't ask. They didn't wait. They had saved my login. From when I booked the cruise. They hadn't come over to talk. They came to cover their tracks. I told my husband. He sat down slowly, shaking his head. Then he stood up and started pacing. He asked if I wanted to press charges. I didn't know. I still don't. The next morning I called the resort. They confirmed the booking. Non-refundable, yes. But they told me something I didn't expect. Only 2 names were on the check-in list. Me. And a guest. No one else was authorized. That's when I made my decision. I told them not to cancel anything. I told them I'd be using it. And I would. Just not the way they thought. Check-in took less than 10 minutes. I handed over my ID, signed a waiver about spa hours, and the front desk woman gave me a soft smile and 2 room keys tucked inside a white envelope labeled Welcome, Dakota. My name. My reservation. My villa. It was massive. Vaulted ceilings, a private pool, a deep soaking tub facing the mountains. Everything was sunlit and quiet. Clean, soft music played through hidden speakers. I stood in the center of the living room for a long second and took it in, the kind of moment where the silence feels earned. The kind where no one could take anything from me, not anymore. My husband arrived 20 minutes later, dragging a small suitcase behind him. I handed him the extra key and said, "It's all ours." He smiled, said nothing, and we unpacked like it was a honeymoon. No posts. No stories. We kept our phones on airplane mode for 2 days. And for those 2 days it was peace. We slept in late, had drinks by the pool, wandered around the quiet paths that wound through the resort. We didn't talk about my parents. We didn't talk about the money. We didn't even talk about the screaming match in my living room or the gift bag with the stolen reservation. It was the first time in years I didn't feel like a bank machine walking on eggshells. But peace doesn't last, not with people like them. On the 3rd morning I turned my phone on. There were already missed calls. Voicemails. A string of increasingly unhinged texts from my mom, followed by one from my older sister that just said, "Did you seriously take the trip?" Then another. They're at the airport. The hotel won't let them in. Apparently they had decided to come anyway. They booked flights to Phoenix, packed their bags, and drove to the resort, assuming that once they arrived the front desk would make it all work out. Except I had already checked in. The room was under my name. I was the card holder. The reservation listed 1 guest only. And the front desk wasn't budging. I read through the texts while sipping coffee on our private deck. My husband handed me a croissant and didn't even ask what was happening. He could tell by my face. I replied to my mom with 3 words. You weren't invited. Less than a minute later, my phone rang. I answered. She wasn't yelling at first. She was crying hysterically. Said they were standing there like idiots in front of the check-in counter. That people were staring. That she was humiliated. That I was cruel, petty, ungrateful. I let her finish, then said, "You stole from me. This is what happens when you steal." She said it was just a trip. Just money. I asked if that's all I was to them. She hung up. A few minutes later, my dad called. I didn't answer. Then came the messages from extended family. My cousin. My aunt. Even a family friend I hadn't spoken to since high school. All of them wanted to know what happened. Apparently, my parents had gone back home and told everyone I had ruined the family vacation out of spite. They never mentioned I'd paid for it. They never said they'd locked me out of it. They just spun the story like I'd gone rogue and stolen the whole thing to punish them for nothing. Then my older sister posted a photo on Facebook. It was them at someone's backyard barbecue. The caption, "Family makes everything better." My mom was smiling. My dad was grilling. Someone had strung up a cheap little banner in the background. I wasn't in any of the photos. But one of my aunts commented, "Where's Dakota?" And my mom replied, "She chose not to come. We don't know why. She's been acting strange lately. Like I was the one who'd gone off the rails." That's when I knew what this really was. It had never been about the trip. It had always been about control. Who got to be the victim? Who got to be center stage? I didn't comment on the post. But a day later, I got a message from my youngest sister. Just one line. "They're lying to everyone. I'm sorry." It hit harder than I expected. She was the only one I didn't want to lose in all this. The only one who never played their game. I replied, "You don't owe me anything. Just take care of yourself." She replied with a photo. She had taken a screenshot of the cruise itinerary from weeks ago. The one that still had my name listed first. She added, "I'm going to tell the truth." And that's when things finally started to shift. The first person to message me after my youngest sister was my Aunt Karen. The one who always brought weird casseroles to family gatherings and somehow knew everything about everyone before anyone said anything. She didn't ask me if the story was true. She didn't even ask what happened. He just said, "I had a feeling." Then came my cousin Lily, who I hadn't seen since our grandmother's funeral. She sent a simple message. "They said you ruined the cruise. But I remember Mom saying you paid for it. Was that true?" I didn't sugarcoat it. I sent her the full invoice. I still had the email. My name on every line item. Her jaw probably hit the floor halfway through reading it. She responded with "Holy hell" and then radio silence. I assumed she was already sending it to the rest of the group chat I'd never been included in. Over the next 2 days, the lies unraveled like thread. The story my parents had fed everyone, that I backed out last minute, sabotaged the trip, left them stranded, started falling apart when people started asking questions. Who paid for the cruise? Why would Dakota ruin something she funded? Why did they say she was never invited but still planned a vacation around her credit card? And most importantly, why were they quiet for 3 days after the cruise fell apart? One by one, people started reaching out. Quietly at first. Carefully. Like they were afraid of stepping on something that might explode. They wanted my side, but more than that, they wanted to distance themselves from the mess. It turned out my parents had been talking behind my back for weeks before the trip, making it sound like I was unstable, difficult, overly emotional. Telling people I'd become controlling since I got married. That I needed space and that this vacation was a chance to give me a break. I wasn't even surprised. It fit their pattern perfectly. Use me, then paint me as the villain when it suited them. But what did surprise me was how quickly things shifted once the receipts came out. An older cousin shared a long post about family, truth, and how people will smile in your face while erasing you behind your back. She didn't name names, but everyone knew who it was about. A few others liked it, then commented. And just like that, my parents started losing their grip on the story. They'd overplayed their hand. People didn't like finding out they'd been lied to, especially not to cover up something so ugly. But even as the tide turned, I didn't gloat. I didn't text them, didn't call. I didn't need to. They knew. I know they knew because 3 days after the truth started spreading, I got a handwritten card in the mail. No return address. Inside was a note in my mom's handwriting. Just a few lines. "We didn't think it would go this far. We just wanted to feel appreciated. Sorry if we crossed a line." That was it. Not sorry for stealing. Not sorry for excluding me. Not sorry for rewriting history. Just sorry things didn't stay hidden. I never replied. They don't talk to me anymore. They still celebrate things. Birthdays, holidays, random dinners, and I'm not invited. But I see the photos. I see the captions. "Family first," they write. No drama, just love. And the funny thing is, I'm fine with it. The worst part of this whole thing wasn't the money or even the betrayal. It was realizing I never should have tried to belong to people who only saw me as useful. I could have taken that cruise. I could have laid by the water with my husband from the start, without paying for 4 extra people who never wanted me there anyway. But no. I don't pay for anyone anymore. And it's the best vacation I've ever had. The final update. It's been 3 months since Arizona. Life's been quiet, peaceful even. No more fake invites, no more passive-aggressive messages, no more family group chat buzzing with plans I wasn't supposed to see. I don't check in. They don't reach out. I thought the chapter was closed. Then a few nights ago I got a message from my youngest sister. We hadn't spoken since she told me she was going to tell the truth. I assumed she'd either changed her mind or they'd pressured her into silence. But she sent me one short text. I'm done pretending. She attached a screenshot of a group chat, just my mom, dad, and older sister. They were planning a Christmas trip to Charleston. Nothing fancy, just a rented house, a few activities, same setup as always. My name wasn't mentioned once. Until the very bottom. My mom wrote, "Don't bring up Dakota. She'll twist it into another drama. Let's just say we figured she had other plans." Then my dad. She never wants to be involved unless it's her idea. Easier to leave her out. And finally my sister. Unless she's paying. Then she's suddenly available. My youngest sister added a second message under the screenshot. I told them I'm not going. I'm spending Christmas with you and James if that's still okay. I sat with that for a minute. Then I replied, "Of course it's okay." She didn't ask for anything else. Just said she'd book her flight soon. The next day she sent me a receipt. Not a request, not a hint. Just proof she'd already bought the ticket herself. That part caught me off guard. For once, someone in my family didn't expect me to pay for anything. He just wanted to be there. It's a small thing. But honestly it meant more than any fake apology ever could. So this Christmas it's just the 3 of us. Me, my husband, and her. No drama. No guilt. No one trying to control anyone. We're not making a big deal out of it. We're just keeping it simple. Dinner, music, maybe a movie, and the kind of peace that doesn't come with a price tag.